Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
Good, Jack. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me on my channel. Really appreciate it.
All good.
Thanks. Yeah. So I want to ask you, how old were you when you started playing hockey?
I believe I was 4. I'm
Mm-hmm.
originally from Thunder Bay, and
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I played from 4, uh, from when I was 4 till 10
Mm-hmm.
on an outdoor rink.
Oh wow. You
And
don't.
now that was common at the time. Like we had our outdoor rink, and so it had a team, and we would go to play other outdoor rinks in town, and obviously they would come play us. Like that was how the league was set up.
How was it to get adjusted to the cold? Like, did you have to stay warm? Because I know it's cold outside, not like an ice rink.
Geez, I feel like, Jack, that would be a great question for my mom. But if I was to answer that,
Uh-huh.
I mean, back then, like we would play minus 20, minus 25, and we'd play. I still remember, our parents would be standing in full skidoo suits on the side of the bench, and like I really can't remember if we played like at the time, right? We may play just halftime, like maybe 20 minutes, and then
Yeah.
go into the warmer and then play another 20 minutes. But I do remember that when we would go on the cold days, we would go into the canteen and you could hear, like, because our toes would start thawing and tingling, and you could hear as our toes, like we were banging our toes of our skates off the wood floor.
Oh, wow.
And that was our intermission.
Wow. A lot of kids today would never experience outdoor hockey. It's a shame that it's gone. It's not like it used to be, which is sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even know if you can do it anymore weather-wise. Like, the weather is so unpredictable now. Like, in Thunder Bay, like I now live in North Bay, and even here, it's unpredictable. Like, certainly the snow doesn't come as early as it used to, and you get in the middle of January and February, and sometimes you have rainstorms that washes out the outdoor rink.
Wow.
So, I do understand that that wasn't really your point, but I'm not really sure if you could even do it anymore. But it's all we knew, and we loved it. Whether you were at the time, whether you were the best player in the neighborhood or not, everyone seemed to start out on outdoor hockey.
Yeah. In Sweden, that's how we started. So I understand how
Well, there you go.
experience. Yeah. How many years did you play in the NHL?
16.
Wow.
16. Like my first 6, I was up and down, and then my last 10 full.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have any favorite coaches over the years?
Jack, I can honestly tell you, I feel like this is kind of circling around your question, but I really felt like I was able to take something positive from all of my coaches, no matter what that was, whether they were really good at strategy or whether they were motivators.
Yeah.
Some were players coaches and some were not players coaches. And I always felt like as I started, certainly as I was getting older, but I tried to also as a younger to try to take pick away at their intelligence, like to take what they got, what they're saying in the assistant coaches and whatnot, what they're saying and learn from that.
Yeah. Did you ever have any first year rookie coaches? Did you see a difference between them and a veteran coach, for example?
You're right. I don't. That is a really good question.
I think like a Ron Wilson. You played.
Yeah, I had Ron Wilson, and I can't remember if he was a rookie or not in Anaheim. But if I was to speak on Ron, he was a real upbeat guy. I don't know if that changed. It says obviously he has some success, and sometimes success can. But he was a real upbeat guy, and I know we were an expansion team also, so the expectations weren't for us to win a Stanley Cup or win our division. But we certainly came close to getting into playoffs as an expansion team, which was certainly a surprise at the time.
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to be, and I'd have to hang my hat on Ron for certainly being the driving engine for that.
Yeah. It looked like a good group of guys. You had a lot of experienced veterans there on that team. I thought you guys...
Yeah, it was. That was the only expansion team that I participated in their inaugural year. And it's not really a secret that obviously guys that get selected to an expansion team are kind of on their second chance, maybe quite honestly, which I felt mine was my last chance to really kind of establish myself as a player or move on to something else. And so there's a lot of I don't know if you call it desperation or so you're going to get hard work and guys dialed in, and Ron was certainly able to tap into that.
Yeah, he did. A great coach from over the years, hearing about him. Yeah. Any favorite defensive partners that you had over the years that you gelled with?
Yeah, now you really have to scratch my head. Like I played with some really good players, like offensively and defensively, played with some really good players. I mean, I was to think back to St. Louis. I played with Al McGinnis, Hall of Fame. When I played in Nashville, one of my favorite guys I played with was Cale Hulse, who finished his career off of Phoenix. But I could probably go. I mean, when I first started, Jack, I played on a team that had Rod Langway, Scott Stevens, Kevin Hatcher, and Larry Murphy on it.
Wow.
And like I could almost tell you, like I actually I played with Kevin Hatcher in junior here in North Bay, and so he graduated straight to the NHL. So I known him previously, and Rod Langway was coming off of back-to-back seasons as Norris Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And I don't think I probably need to say anything about Scott Stevens and his reputation, and that's the way he played throughout his full, complete career. And the offensive mind of Larry Murphy was like over the top.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if that's really answering your question as to favorite. I just, again, was kind of been surrounded my whole career, probably, or at least most of my career, with really, really good, defensemen and forward and goalie players.
Did they give you a lot of advice at that time? Did like a veteran Rob Langway or any?
Yeah, I will tell you, Jack. I had a lot of positive input from guys that I played with. People would probably laugh at this now, but I kind of just shut up and took it all in. It's probably not what I was known for as I got older, but as a young guy, and if you ask questions, you tend to, guys want to help out. I wasn't quite the way it was now, but certainly, if your team wants to be successful, you're going to want your 6th, 7th, 8th D to be at his best, whether he's playing, 8 minutes or 2 minutes. Like, if your team is going to have success, you want everyone pulling on the rope the same way. So I really did. I was really fortunate, I think. And I'll always remember Brian Murray, who was the coach at the time, him pulling me over and telling me, when you're on the bench on the game, watch what these guys are doing. Now, and he said, you may not be able to do what they do or all of what they do, but you can do some of what they do. So watch what they're doing. And I found that that was really, Jack, I think that was my first year. And I can tell you, I found that helpful through my whole 16 years.
Wow.
Because even when I would be on the bench, I would watch, not only now, as I evolve, right? Not only the players on our team, but the players on other teams, that I would watch and look for their patterns, even as I was playing against more forwards and their patterns. And so that really, really, I feel from that message from Brian Murray was helpful.
Yeah, that's a great advice for sure. The Norris Trophy is like the best defenseman in scoring. What do you think about having a trophy for the defenseman that blocks shots, break up plays? Because that's something that a lot of players don't do, and it takes guts to block a shot. Not everybody wants to do it. What do you think of a trophy like that?
Yeah, I guess you're right, because they do have the Selkie for the defensive forward.
Yes.
And certainly the Norris, I can't remember now, the last 20, 30, whatever years, is usually given to the defenseman that has the most points.
Yeah.
Not really necessarily the best defensive player. And I wish I would have looked at this stuff before coming on. Like, I don't know who would have won it, where Rod Langway certainly won it as a defensive defenseman.
Yes.
Back-to-back Norris trophies. So that would be a unique idea, because you're right. Probably very much unappreciated by fans, but very appreciated by coaches and teammates, those players that are willing to do those things.
Yeah, without defense, you cannot win a cup. I mean, you have to have that defensive core that's going to take the second chances away, and the plus minus. Sometimes defense and win this Norris Trophy, they got a bad plus minus, so it doesn't make sense to me how they won the Yeah. So that's one thing. Yeah. So
I think
hopefully
it's
one
been
day.
probably proven over and over again that when it comes down to it, usually a top defensive team wins the cup.
Yes, it's true.
Like, you know, I mean, they balance. I mean, these players nowadays, they have so much skill. Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like so much skill. So even the top defensive teams still have ridiculous skill.
Yeah.
It's just that they're able to combine it.
Yeah. This, taking out the red line, in your opinion, was that a good thing or a bad thing?
I do, Jack. I think that it would just made the game faster.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of funny. All of the things that made the game faster kind of made me obsolete. But it really did, I think, promote the game better to the audience, right? Which at the end of the day, you know, it's an entertainment product, and you want to get as many eyeballs on the screen. And I do think that and I don't know how it's possible that this game gets any faster, but I feel like the faster it is, the more skill it is, it's easier for fans to appreciate.
What about like the guys are getting more hurt nowadays with better equipment, less hitting? They're getting more hurt. Do you think that there's anything that's missing?
Well, I mean, depending on the kind of injuries that they have,
concussions. I mean, they get open ice.
Yeah, because they're going so fast. I remember when I was playing, and I played against Mike Medano, and he was so fast.
Yeah,
like he was so fast. And I do remember thinking, like, how much faster can this get before someone's going to really get hurt? Like, you know, he's going to drive the net, or he's going to catch it. Not him personally, or someone's going to drive the net or catch an edge and just go flying head first into the boards and break. Like, knock on wood, it never happens. But yeah, I don't know, Jack. I guess, you know, there's people that are making a lot of money that are a lot smarter than I am that are going to make those decisions on. Maybe one day they will need to slow the game down, however that will maybe be. But it for sure is getting faster and faster.
Yeah.
As you go, and I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know how you would ever measure this. You know, Mike Medano's speed when I played compared to Connor McDavid's speed. But I would think that probably a lot of players now in the modern day NHL have Mike Medano's speed. Where at the time, I thought it was like, holy cow.
The stretch passes take away from the creativity. Like, I used to see in the 90s a play develop from their zone with a lot more close passing, drop passes. Nowadays, it's a lot of stretch passes, which makes it, because of the red line, obviously, that's what maybe the speed is there.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, I think that was probably one of the reasons too, right? So that take the red line out, you can stretch the defense out.
Yeah.
But again, I would say, well, I mean, it obviously takes the speed of the guy to stretch the defense, but it also takes the skill of that guy to make that pass under pressure.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome.
Yeah. Some good things and some different, you know, because of the hitting, that the guys turn their back now too. That's what I noticed that we didn't do when I played, turn our backs.
Yeah. I will say that they're like, things like, and I can't remember all the calls. I wish hitting a defenseless player a penalty, and there's like if you have the puck, I've never understood that. Like, if you have the puck, how could you be defenseless? Like, you got to understand that someone's coming to hit you, don't you?
Yeah.
Which again, you're right. The game is for sure getting away from that, and I will agree with you that. I do feel that there is a spot for a good body check, and I do feel like you are like guys, you know, turn their backs all of the time now.
Yeah.
And I often, you know, sometimes it's protect the puck, and sometimes it's to draw a penalty.
Yeah.
And, you know, so how do you gauge that as a referee or as the commissioner of the NHL? I don't know. Yeah. But it is a dangerous play for sure. And you're right. Back when I played, that certainly was not common.
Never saw anybody, all the years I played, never saw anybody turn their back. And they told me the first thing when I played was, if you turn your back, we don't call it. The refs would say that. Like, you know, when we started out playing, they told us not to turn our backs ever.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I got out of it. But I want to ask you, so Mike Gardner had a lot of speed. So how was he to go against in practice on your team when he was in Washington?
Yeah, so that would be another. I forgot about Mike. Yeah, well, I will tell you that going against Mike Gardner in practice was awesome because even though you might get embarrassed in practice, it prepared you for the game if you had to play against someone with that kind of speed. Yeah. And he had all kinds of other different skills too.
Yeah.
But it really worked on your own foot speed, like trying to get your foot speed, engage his his speed, and he was so explosive that he would be just skating, and then boom, he would be gone. So again, practicing against Mike and other players too, right? Like your own players that have excellent skill is always good for you. It may not make you look really great in practice, but in the long term, works out.
Yeah, I think it's an advantage to have those players in the team for sure.
Absolutely.
In practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Besides Mike Modano, would you say what other play was tough to play against? Could be in the corners, could be anything, blocking a shot. Who would you say was the toughest that you had to face?
Toughest. I guess like Bure again was someone that had an insane amount of speed. Yeah, Jaromir Jagr was like you could never get the puck off him. Like he was so strong.
Yeah.
Lemieux was the same. Like I mean, you're both the same kind of player. So skilled, stood like always had their head up, played like they were standing straight up, and always made the right play. Yeah. Playing against Wayne Gretzky, I always used to. My friends would say, like, why doesn't anyone hit him? Why doesn't anyone hit him? And I used to try to explain him, and I don't think you could ever do it justice. Like, because if you just took a foot out of the proper lane where you were supposed to be to go try to get him, that's exactly where the puck was going to go, because that's exactly where one of his players was filling in, and you would look like an idiot. And like he was so smart. Yeah. But I mean, I could really go on. I mean, blocking shots. I still remember blocking down the shot.
Oh man!
Yeah, I went down on one knee and I took it in the forearm. I thought my bone exploded.
Wow!
It didn't. I needed a lot of ice and it was tough to hold the stick. But you're right. Like there's different players that had different skill sets and pose different issues.
Yeah. It's amazing to see, over the years, the speed has changed, but still some of the guys from the 90s, just the way they passed the puck or they had the vision like Gretzky, it was a gift, to have that vision on the ice. It was
crazy.
Crazy.
Like it would be crazy. I often say that for people that never ever got to watch him play in a live rink, like to watch him play live, because when you see on TV, like you can watch him on TV, and then all of a sudden, like someone's open, like someone skates in from the screen, and then he hits them. But if you're not there live, you can't see where that player is and appreciate how Gretzky knew where that player was, 2-3 seconds before that.
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
Amazing. He's amazing. What rule changes would you change or add if you were to be commissioner of the NHL?
Oh, geez. I don't know how you can change this, Jack, but I would go back to what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe I see this as a defenseman, but I just hate the way players turn their back to the play. And again, it's iffy. Like I do understand that some of them are doing it to protect the puck, and I don't ever know how a referee could ever distinguish between one or the other, right? Because there would always be a comment that, oh no, I was doing this, or oh no, I was doing that. But like it makes for, it seems as we've gone further and further, and rightly so, like further and further to make things easier for the offensive players, because it is what it is. People like to see goals and speed, and it's hard enough to play defense when you have guys that do that. Like you're coming in, coaches are yelling at you to play fast and play hard, go get them. And at the last second, obviously they turn, and now you're taking a penalty when it's like, geez,
it's hard to stop at the last second too sometimes with the momentum.
100% is, 100%.
Yeah. I want to ask you, did you ever have any players, teammates that were picky with their equipment or superstitious, extremely superstitious? Did you ever see anybody?
I probably saw quite a few. The one that sticks out most for me is when I played with Cliff Ronning in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And Cliff was Cliff was, first of all, super skilled. So how do you argue with his methods? But he was really particular with his stick, And if I remember right, he used to sharpen his own skates. So I feel like he was also particular about that. And that was certainly something that, even when I played, people now talk about a 5/8 hollow and an inch hollow and a half-inch hollow. And I never knew any of those when I played. It was just, can you sharpen my skates, please?
Yeah.
But Cliff was really, I'm pretty sure he sharpened his skates.
His own, yeah. He didn't trust anybody, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite hockey sticks over the years? Because my channel's a lot about hockey sticks. I do show a lot of hockey sticks, vintage and all that.
I'd have to go back through my hockey cards. Yeah, I'll tell you my stick story.
Mm-hmm.
When I was still in junior, and we went down to training camp, and back then there was Sherwood, Coho, excuse me, maybe Jofa. I don't know. There was only 3 brands of sticks anyway. Bauer, maybe. Anyway. So I have no idea how to look for a stick. Like when we played junior, we literally got handed a stick.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stick you're using tonight. If you break it, then here you go. That's the stick. Not like what to look for. Anyway, so I was hemming and hawing trying to look. I'm picking this stick up, picking that stick up, leaning on it. And Doug Sherry, who was the equipment trainer, was watching it at the time. He walked over and he picked up Rod Langway's stick off the wall. He walked over and gave it to me, and he said, "If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for you."
Wow.
And sure enough, right? I was like, okay. So that was my pattern I used for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I used Coho, and then that's when the carbon sticks started, all the different kinds of sticks started coming in, right? And the first 90s. One I went to was a Bush.
Oh, yeah. I remember those. Those were indestructible. Yeah. Did you break any of those?
They really worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the last one was maybe a TPS. Is it Louisville TPS?
Yeah, Louisville TPS. The wood ones were awesome, but then they came out with a response. The
response, that was it. And that's what I ended my career with.
Did you have trouble adjusting from the wood to the graphites? Because I did.
Well, I did, but it was so great to have a graphite because it was just like modern, right?
Yeah.
This was a modern thing to do. So I coach now and help out with my OHL team here in town, North Bay.
And, nice.
Yeah, last year I came in and brought my Coho wood stick in. And I have, 4 of them left or whatever it is. And I brought it in. The kids could not believe how I would have actually played a game with these sticks. It was so stiff.
Yeah. They want flex now. I mean, yeah.
And Eddie and...
Do you ever use a Canadian 6001? Those were my favorite.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Fiberglass. They're like the Coho company, but it was just a Canadian, a little bit different on the kind of the shaft part.
Right.
And so wanted to ask you, did you ever see any politics in the game? And there's politics in every line of sport, every business, you name it. Did you experience anything, or did you see anything like that?
I really can't say that. Again, I guess I would like to put myself in the meeting rooms back in the day. Like when I was always a pretty efficient and pretty good player in the minors, and then yet I would often get sent down. Now, I'm sure I like to think that they always was very good reasons why that happened. Like obviously as a player, I would be like, holy cow, like I'm better than him. I'm maybe 21 and they have a 30-year-old guy, but maybe there's a reason they have the 30-year-old guy. Jack. So I mean, I can. You are right. Like it's maybe it came down to money. Maybe it like who knows? Maybe someone was on a one-way contract. I was on a two-way contract.
Yeah.
So it was easier to send me down. Geez, I remember when I was 16, and I was trying out for the AAA rep team in Thunder Bay, and I got cut, and so I had to go play juvenile. And actually, again, I wish my mom would be on this phone call, because she would talk about all the politics of that of minor hockey before, long before pro or anything like that. Because here I got cut, where the next year I got drafted to the OHL.
Wow. It happens a lot with the players. They get cut, and sometimes the coaches, I think, are not experienced to pick, or that's why they're coaching at the lower levels.
Sometimes. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And it's all in, you got to control what you can control. Like, as a player, you don't control that. Like, some people make decisions, and then you've got to go and try to change their mind. Or, like I've always told players now that come through, like, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to waste energy on management or coaches, or like whatever. Like, that's not going to serve your purpose.
Yeah.
Like, we make decisions. Maybe we're wrong. Like, but truth be told, no matter what happens, if you play hard enough and if you play well enough, you are going to be found. Like, you're going to be found. Yes. So wasting your energy on our decisions, which maybe we're wrong. Like, we are not infallible. Maybe we're wrong, but go and prove it.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to sit and pout and wait, then like maybe you could be a player, but you just lost your opportunity because you were so wrapped up in our decisions instead of you trying to get better.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I want to ask you, any advice to kids on playing defense? I have a lot of kids that listen to my channel. Is there anything that you would give advice to them?
Well, I mean, even hockey from when I played to 30 years before me to probably 30 years from now is always going to be the same, right? For a defenseman, you got to take the body, stay in between your guy and the net. You're going to have to block the odd shot and move the puck out. The great offensive players, normally, not always, and I do understand, like, minor hockey is different than when you go to junior or college, and then you move up to the minors, and then it gets more and more. But it's not very often that a player takes a puck from behind their net, skates to the other end, and scores. Like, you normally have to move the puck. Like, so move. If you're an offensive guy, I would say train yourself to whatever, hook the net or pick the puck up in the neutral zone, pick your eyes up, make the pass, and then follow the play. If you're an offensive guy, follow the play up the ice. Don't lead the play up the ice, follow the play up the ice. And if you're not an offensive guy, it's funny, like, how it always happens here at the trade deadline for the NHL. They're looking for that stay-at-home defenseman, good in his own end, and can make the first pass. And I tell our D here all the time that, like, you can make a living for a long, long time by taking the body, being good in your own end, and making a good breakout pass. Especially, I said, when it feels like the roof is caving in and you've been hemmed in your zone, and if you're a guy that it gets on your stick and you can turn around and make a good pass to your forward to get yourself out of the end, you can make a lot of money over a lot of years.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yes, I agree. Great advice.
People get really wrapped up in points, and I do get that. I understand that. But as you get higher and higher and higher, it gets harder and harder. And those players that had points and now can't get points anymore, if they've grown the rest of their game, then they can probably play. But if they've only relied on that, and now maybe they're not as fast as they used to be comparably, or maybe their shot isn't as hard as everyone's used to. Now they don't have that they have nowhere to go, because that's all they relied on.
Yeah, it's true. It's great advice, because I do see that a lot of kids just depend on the points and they don't look at the other part of the game. Happens all the time. Yeah. I want to thank you, Bill, so much for coming on and talking to me on my channel. It's great to have you on, and great advice and all great stories. Thank you.
My pleasure, Doug.
You got it. and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. You're welcome.